Hey, everybody, this is the Ads with a Twang podcast. I'm your host, Ben Blackman, and on this episode, we're going to talk about what happens when your organic traffic dies. Will ads help fix that? Let's get into it. Here comes episode 120. The Ads with a Twang podcast is dedicated to helping you create simple, successful ads and use smart strategies to grow your online business. Get ready because I think you're going to love this. I feel like my podcast is just a never ending series of frequently asked questions. And maybe that's what it's supposed to be. I don't know. Let me just tell you this. I had some clients who became clients probably in November, and then now they're not clients anymore. And I'll tell you what happened. I always feel bad about that when somebody doesn't stay with me for very long, because most of my clients have been with me for a really long time. And first of all, I'm of the opinion that if an ad agency doesn't feel like that they can actually get you the result, they don't need to take you on. They just need to say, hey, I can't do it, and move on. And I've had to do that more times than I can count. However, these particular clients, which they're great people, they were a referral, and they really had a lot of good stuff going on. I just didn't know. I found out something later during our doing business together what happened, and had I known in the beginning, I probably would have done things differently. But the gist of it is that they have been doing great organically, and this is a very common story. They've been doing great organically, getting sales and sales and sales, and just so busy and yada yada yada. And then their sales started slacking off, and then they were just dwindling down to almost zero, not zero, but very low. And they thought, oh, let's run some ads. And that's what happens a lot is people think that ads are going to save them, or they can do exactly what they were doing organically and it'll work with ads. And that's just not that's not what happens. So I just kind of wanted to address that because this is a pretty common thing. So let's just kind of get into it a little bit. So ads, what they do is they amplify what's already working. They don't just create demand out of thin air. It doesn't really work like that. Now, do you have to have organic working before ads will work? Well, it really depends. There's this symbiotic relationship between ads and organic, and most people take that for granted. Most people sit in one or two camps, and you'll hear people brag about, hey, I don't do ads, and I do this, I make this amount. And then you'll hear other people say, I started straight away with ads, and I never had to post. I don't have to do all that crap and stuff. And I get it, and they have stuff that works. But for better or for worse, I've been around the block, and what I mean by that is I've had a business tank because of something I wasn't in control of and what really wasn't aware of. I literally came in one day, and the business that I had was over. I mean, super successful business. And I walked in one day, and something that I wasn't aware of took it out. It was done. Okay, it was a regulation. And people, I see this out here now that, people just aren't aware that regulations can happen at any time. Government regulations, your supplier regulations, depending on what you're doing. It can destroy your business overnight. And so can relying on one method of marketing. And that's what I did in my other business. I relied on one method, and that method, things weren't working out anymore. There was also this thing, I don't know, a lot of y'all may not remember, and I use this a lot, but it's called broadcast fax. And so it was like a blast. Spam faxes is what they were. And I knew people that were making millions doing that. And literally it was over in one day. The government passed a law, got signed in, went into effect, and boom, it was gone. And so the reason I'm telling you this is because you want to use leverage by having multiple methods to get your leads. You don't want to just have them all in one place. That's why you want to have an email list, right? You don't want to just have followers. Followers don't, that's great to have followers, but if they're not on your email list, then they can be taken away. Your account can get shut down, whatever. You're just trying to hedge your bets. So there's my little preachy thing, and I won't continue on with that. So I don't want you to throw, and I also don't want you to throw ad dollars away trying to fix a broken model. And so I say that because things might be working great organically, but if you haven't been planning for ads, then and you're going to just kind of go all in, that's usually doesn't work out. So you really have to have a proven offer before you get going with ads. If you don't, you're going to have a really tough time, especially if you're new to it. The messaging from your ads, or the messaging in general, really has to speak to your audience. And it all has to be very dialed in. And I was talking about this in the newsletter. Well, actually, it hasn't come out yet, but I was just talking about this when I was writing the newsletter, because if most people's messaging is about them, if that makes any sense. It's not about the problem that they solve. Like they're selling coaching, not solving the problem. That's not what you should do. You should sell solving the problem. Coaching just happens to be the method by how they're going to get the problem solved. And so organically that can be okay because people are consuming your organic content, and that's fine. But from an ad standpoint, you don't have that luxury because they're not following you, so they're only seeing the ad one time. Now, they might subsequently follow you. They might get on your email list, and that's great. But if that's not the case, then it's going to be tough to get them to convert. So you also want to have a basic funnel that works. So the clients I was talking about before, they really just didn't even have a basic funnel together. They did everything by message. Even their communication style with me was all about text messaging, which is great and that's good, but it's tough to run a business that way. And with people now, people are going to say, "Oh, I do everything from my phone," and blah blah blah, and that's fine. That's perfectly fine. What I'm just saying is that if you're going to really grow your business and have it sustainable and consistent over a long period of time, I'm not talking about for a couple of years, I'm talking about a long period of time, then you have to do more than that, and it's going to be tough to do it that way. Now, that may change in the future, but for now, that's what you have to do. So when ads are going to make sense for you, it's when you have an offer that converts, and it converts consistently, but you're trying to, and I hate to use this word, scale it, or the word scale. I hate that word. I would rather say, but you're trying to make it more consistent. That's really how I would look at it. Scaling is way overused and overhyped. Most people can't scale because they're not even consistent to begin with. So there's no sense in trying to scale it. So have a good offer that you're ready to create some consistency with ads to help supplement your organic traffic. That's what I'm talking about. So as long as you're building a lead list or selling a low ticket product, that's perfect, right? That's a perfect thing to do. That's a perfect time to run ads, to just kind of slowly grow your list. You don't have to spend a lot of money on this. You can spend $5 a day. It's fine. Just go ahead and budget for it and start spending it so that you start getting the data, and you start, you're not, if something does happen, you're not starting from scratch. Because the cool thing about spending low budgets is you can test ideas with small daily budgets. You can test some crazy stuff, because that's what happens and I've talked about this in the last episode. A lot of times what you think's going to work doesn't, and vice versa. So you want to be able to test those things. And testing in and of itself is a misnomer, okay? But what I mean by that is that it's an overused, overhyped word because nobody really explains how it's done. And, I'm doing a whole thing about that, so that'll be out pretty soon. But the smart move, if your organic traffic dies, is to go back and tighten up your offer. That's really what you need to do, because it's likely that you still have sales out on the table from your organic traffic. You just need to tighten up your offer. And tighten up means take a look at the messaging and figure it out. Is the messaging about solving a problem, or is the messaging about your service solving the problem? Does that make sense? So you really want to focus on your ideal audience and telling them about the problem you're going to solve. Re-engage your list, your email list. If it's dead, revive it, work on it. If you're assuming it is a good list, if you didn't get a bunch of junk on it, you want to revive it, and make sure that you're engaging with your community first first and foremost. And then once you do that, then use ads as a way to stabilize it and grow once you have something that's working again. That's really the most effective way. Okay, I hope all that makes sense. I just want to kind of reiterate that ads are not a cure-all, a magic button. It doesn't happen that way. And I don't think people consciously think of it like that, but too many times people get involved in ads when it's a last resort, and that's a bad place to come from. So don't do that, okay? And that's it on this episode. I hope that I'll catch y'all on the next one, which will be episode 121. And don't forget to subscribe. Subscribe, please. Okay, great. Catch you on episode 121. Thanks for listening to the Ads with the Twang podcast. If you get a second, jump on over to my YouTube channel, Marketing with the Twang, and subscribe. You'll get all kinds of no BS business building help there. I'll see you next time.